vacuum, you can see it in the sky. No use running, if you do, you won't survive. People are sick and people are tired, but inside of me rages a fire. The people are going to burn this corruption to the ground. Yeah, we the people will fight fire with fire starting now. You can see every day more and more people like me are breaking the chains of slavery. America's at a breaking point. Once you strike that match, there's no way to turn back. We the people are gonna burn this corruption to the ground. Yeah, we the people will fight fire with fire starting now. We the people are going to burn this corruption to the ground. Yeah, we the people will fight fire with fire starting now. Gonna watch them run, gonna watch it burn, gonna watch it all come down. Yeah, we the people are gonna burn this corruption to the ground. Yeah, we the people will fight fire with fire starting now. Oh, gonna watch them run, gonna watch it burn, gonna watch it all come down. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if that was just the ending real quick or what. But welcome to LWN Network tonight, and welcome to Wednesday Wolfpack, or sorry, not Wednesday, Sunday Wolfpack. Wolfpack Sunday. I haven't got that one down quite yet, but welcome to the show tonight. I do have a special guest with me tonight, and for my buddy Neil, who's out of town today, I just want to do the howl for him because he started doing the howl. Absolutely love it. So, oh, that's for you, Neil. Thanks for joining us this evening over there on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. And tonight, we're going to go on a quest. We're going to talk about what if the unthinkable happened. What if the United States got invaded? Which, if you want to talk about policies from the previous administration with open borders, that happened for a good 4 years. What if a dirty bomb goes off here in the United States? What if a nuke went off here in the United States? How would you protect your family? Have you been prepping? Have you been preparing for this? What's your thoughts on that? So tonight, special guest, a real, excuse me, real good buddy of mine, Joel, is joining me here in studio here at LWN Network. And so I want to go ahead and introduce Joel. He is, we've been friends for a couple years now. He's a family friend. And I met Joel, well, kind of through some prepping stuff. People in my circle been talking about this exact thing. Well, what if shit hits the fan? And put me in contact with Joel. We became friends. We've had lots of conversations, not only about prepping, but we've went out of town on weekend excursions and even looked at property. So with that being said, I'd love to introduce Joel here to LWN, to the Wolfpack Sunday. Joel, how you doing?
Oh, doing great. Hey guys, super excited to be here. Yeah, we've had a few excursions that we've gone out and done. Went and watched the movie. There was a lot that we left there kind of scratching our heads about, but
so what
also
movie are you referring to?
Homestead.
Homestead. So Homestead is from Angel Studio. It was in theaters. I don't know, 2-3 months ago. I think it was around January, February when we went and watched it. And so it's a movie about the end. It's about, okay, nuke goes off in L.A., San Francisco, a couple other places across the country, and people are scrambling to try to figure out what's life look like. And then there were people in the movie that had already been prepping and planning for this. And Joel, we did kind of leave there kind of scratching our heads.
Definitely. See, I grew up on property. We did fend for ourselves. We grew our own food. We raised our own animals. We did what we needed to do to survive. I'm going to be 50 years old this year. And we were very humble living growing up. So a lot of what we did was self-sufficient. So with that being said, I've always been taught that if you can see the city can see you. That was the biggest thing I took from that was their first mistake. They were too close to the city. Mm-hmm. And if you have too many eyes on you, everybody's going to be on you. And that's what caught me off guard right away. I wasn't impressed with that part about the movie at all.
Yeah, what you're referring to is they were up on a hill. It was a huge mansion. They could see everybody down below them, and everybody could see them up the hill. And throughout that movie, and I went ahead and got the series and started. I think I'm in the second or third episode. It caused a lot of problems with Joel. What Joel's saying, if you can see them, they can see you. And so when we were out exploring here in the great state of Idaho, trying to find properties for this exact thing, that was one of your stipulations. You were like,
Absolutely.
Know what? I want to be somewhere where they can't see us, and I don't disagree about that.
If people stumble upon you, that's one thing that you can. I don't want to say combat, but it's one of those things that you can work your way around if people stumble upon you or what you're doing. If you're going to be self-sufficient, you want to make sure that you either have close people with you that are like-minded and as far away as possible, but still within reason of being able to go to a city for supplies or whatnot.
Well, let's talk about the what if. Okay, so please give the listeners tonight maybe 2 or 3 scenarios that, in your opinion, we could be on the brink of. Now, we can go down some deep rabbit holes. We can go conspiracy theory on a lot of stuff. But, I mean, there's things that happened in the last 4 years that put us in some pretty poor positions, not just on the not just on the national front, but globally as well. What are some things that for you and your family you're concerned about, Joel?
The banks right now are my number one concern, and it's not necessarily the banks, it's who funds the banks.
Who funds the banks?
BlackRock and a lot of Democrat supporters. The deep pockets that continue to fund the corruption against you and me, our tax dollars. That's what bothers me, because they have that completely by the balls. And if that crashes, it's going to crush our livelihood.
So you're talking about an economic collapse. That's what you're referring to.
100%. Because again, if interest rates get blown out of proportion, we can't forward our homes to pay our bills, just our home bill, the bank will foreclose on that. And they've already made it very clear that they'd rather have a renting society than an owning society.
Well, yeah, the World Economic Forum said plainly, you will own nothing and be happy. And, there are people out there that know for a fact. I was even renting a home that was owned by BlackRock last year in Kuna. They are building massive subdivisions all across the United States and right here in Idaho too. And they're renting all these homes out to people, and a lot of people can't afford to buy a home now because of inflation. So here's my question to you, Joel. Donald J. Trump, a lot of us voted for him. A lot of us feel like his policies are good for all Americans and that he could come in here and clean things up.
Absolutely.
Are you still in that camp where you think that we're safe, or are you still concerned even though Donald Trump's at the helm?
With him and his administration being at the helm, I do feel like a little bit of the pressure is off. But we've already seen if they want to push something through, they're going to go around him and his administration. They don't care. They'll do it state by state.
So what about these tax cuts that they just they voted against?
Correct.
And I've been paying attention to that a little bit. You know, he wanted wide blanketed tax cuts for all Americans, and we're talking about not taxing
Overtime.
Social Security, overtime,
Tips.
waitresses, and tips. And they put a kibosh to that. And that, you know, here's my frustration. We have the White House, we have the House, and we have the Senate. That should have went through. But I guess there's people that are roadblocking that. And it's a concern of mine with economic collapse. You know, if the dollar's not worth anything anymore, if you know, we've talked about BRICS on this show lots of times, which is China, Russia, and some others, and they're trying to get rid of the American dollar as the world reserve currency. And if that happens, that could spell trouble for the United States.
It could, 100%. You know, the hard part about it, you know, is it doesn't matter what we do, how successful we are, everything we do gets taxed. We broke away over a T-tax. And at some point, the backbone of the U.S. is going to have to take over. We are going to have to get back to our roots and fight to get rid of taxes. It's going to be taxes across the board. Every dollar we make is taxed. Everything we do with that dollar, from the second it gets into our hand, it's taxed until it's taxed no more.
It's double taxation. It's triple taxation. So you go out, you work a 40, 50-hour week job, you get an income tax, a revenue tax. Then you go to the gas station and you get a road tax. And then you have to buy a vehicle, you get taxed for buying the vehicle. And then you have to license the vehicle and you get taxed for that. You go to the grocery store and you get taxed for buying groceries. You know, you get taxed when you are born. You get taxed when you die. It's tax and tax and tax and tax. So Joel, do you feel like this current administration really wants to make that change and get us back to where America is prosperous again, where folks like you and I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck? What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. There's nothing more than I want than to see the Trump administration and Trump succeed. There's just a lot of hoops to jump through to get through that, because even though unless he wants to create like a martial law on it and just force it through, cram it down their throats, which I'm all for. If you don't like that,
no, whoa, wait a minute. Some people will say that's a dictator.
I don't give a fuck what they think, because we've been dealing with dictators for 16 years.
Yeah.
16 years. And out of the 4, we had 2 of them that were absolutely fantastic, and then we had that stolen from us. So if you don't like that, you're on the wrong page. You're on the wrong channel, and you're talking to the wrong guys.
All right. So what is another concern of yours besides economic collapse?
The food. The food is killing us.
Now, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about
everything
health?
You get? Everything.
Or are you talking about control of food?
The people who are in control of the food that you're getting from your daily consumption from the grocery stores or from fast food. I mean, everywhere you go, it's toxic. Mm-hmm. So if you want, if you want to do better, then find a way to do better on eating. If you want a healthier life, if you don't want to feel like shit every day you wake up until the time you go to bed, figure out a way to do something differently than what you're doing. Because it's the consumption of the trash that you're putting in your body that's making you feel this way.
Okay, what are you and your family doing to combat that?
We started about 4 or 5 years ago. We started doing tower gardens, so we're growing our own vegetables in the house. We have our garden outside. Excuse me. Local beef. We usually go through somebody that we know and trust. So I know that when that animal is born, it's raised to be consumed as healthy grade A beef. Go out and go fishing. You can go to any stream, any river, catch fish. You can, pigs are a dime a dozen. So are sheep. Start butchering your own beef. At least that way you know where it came from. It's not pumped full of different types of geoengineered bio bullshit. Start baking your own breads, making your own pastas. All these things are attainable if you just take the time to do it.
It does take time.
The problem is the U.S. has
take
become
effort.
instant gratification, where if they can't get it in the palm of their hand by snapping their fingers, they don't want to do it. Get back to your roots. Stop relying on the hand of the government to feed your mouth. Do it yourself. If you don't do it
Absolutely.
yourself, you're not going to make it. It's the bottom line.
Well, so that's more of a health concern for me. Again, what are at least two other concerns of yours that would put us into this unthinkable situation? Let's talk about open border policy. Let's talk about the Biden administration from day one opened the border, completely opened it, and allowed all the illegals to flood our border, come across our border. They were putting them on buses. They were putting them on planes. They were putting them on trains, sending them all over across to all the swing states. That's been a proven fact. But
Thank
is
you,
that
Carlene, by the way.
Huh?
Carlene.
Oh,
I
Carlene?
appreciate that. Yep.
So I guess, Donald Trump has said it. I've said it a few times too. Would you, Joel, consider that an invasion of America?
100%. I was born and raised here in Idaho, and I have friends who their families came across the border years and years ago, have gone through every channel possible, and they're still on a work visa or a green card. This is 20, 30 years later. They did the process. They've done everything they can. They still haven't gotten citizenship. They've done everything right. And yet, the people that are just coming across illegally are getting Social Security cards. They're getting a prepaid Visa card. They're getting housing.
What about the
They're getting
app?
cars.
What about the app?
It's ridiculous. So I have problems with that because I have friends. Now, you can come from another country and you can get your citizenship in 12 years or less. Cambodia, for example. China, for example. All of these places are easier to get your U.S. citizenship than coming from Mexico. Now, again, that's something that's deeper than we'll ever know. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what the backing is on that. We already know that it's a ploy for them to try and get votes. But as we see, they're getting smart. They understand that what the Democrats do is toxic. It's toxic for their future. It's toxic for their family. So they're going to take that handout. They're going to get that free get into USA free card. And then as soon as they get there, they're going to turn their backs on them. That's what they've just shown in this last election. That benefited us, but what's going to say it's not going to benefit them in the future? We don't know that.
I agree. So here's my question to you, and then I have a follow-up question, is do you believe in immigration?
100%. I again, if it's done through the right channels, there is a process. There's a due process.
So you believe in legal immigration?
100%. If you come across any border in any other country, you're going to go to jail instantly if you get
Some
caught.
countries will shoot you on sight.
Or you'll never see the light of day. They'll put you in a deep, dark hole, and no one will ever know that you even existed.
Yeah, if we tried to cross the border into China illegally, they'd either shoot us or throw us in prison. So I'm in the same camp as you, Joel. I believe in legal immigration. So here's my follow-up question. Do you believe that the immigration policies, say, in the last 40, 50 years, do you think that those policies are broken and they need reform?
Yes, I do believe that every system has been broken for the last 16 years. Actually, right now, excuse me, 18 years, I should say. In fact, some of them are even broken more further back than that. It's more of we need to get everything that's already started out of the country. And at that point, then start a reform. Then figure out what due process is. Then put it through port of entry. Figure out what they can do. If they have family members here that are already citizens, then that's fine. They can go through their process just like the family members did if it took them 20 years.
Okay.
If the system is broken, there has to be a reset or it'll never get corrected.
Well, here's
real
what I
quick.
was leading into is so we were talking about financial collapse. We're talking about invasion, but what if it's a worse invasion? What if it's not just illegals coming across the border to take work here in America? What if there is ill will? What if they're here to maybe attack our power grid? Because that's the easiest way to take America down at this point. Not just a financial collapse with China messing with us, on the world stage and trying to become the world power, the world currency, but an invasion. What if military-aged gentlemen? Well, I won't even call them gentlemen. Let's just say men or boys, young men, come across our border as part of an invasion. Do you feel like that's something that should be concerning to your family?
100%. I mean, my family's a little bit different, whether you believe this or not, or even feel like it's safe. All of my kids have been around guns since they were about 18 months old. They had guns in their hands at 18 months, with me there, with my wife there. Excuse me. And I raised my children under the presence of, you don't have to like them, you don't have to love them, but you will respect what they can and cannot do. If you choose to want to shoot, you can. If you choose to not want to have a gun in your home when you grow up, that's your choice. But if we as parents do not do our job, knowing there's going to be guns in the house, then we failed our children. They need to understand what a weapon can do. And in the wrong hands, a weapon can be done, which I see somebody up here asked about the mass shootings over the weekend. I read a few of them, but to be honest with you, I don't consider Hispanic on Hispanic shootings or black on black shootings a mass shooting. I don't, because you'll see a very, very small clip. The only time you see anything of an actual mass shooting is when it's fitting the narrative of gun control. So I'm going to take that as a grain of salt of mass shootings, because again, if it's inner city crime based on drug behavior, gang behavior, rivalry behavior, whatever it may be, to me it's not a mass shooting. I don't believe that in any shape or form that it's a mass shooting. Now, if you've got somebody that goes into a crowd to do ill will and target everybody, that's one thing. But if you have people that are shot as bystanders, but you know that it was black on black crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime, white on white crime, that's not a mass shooting. Which brings me to another thing, a community that is armed is a community that's safe.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
I grew up in Notice, Idaho, and right next door to Notice is Greenleaf. When you drive into that city, it clearly states every citizen that lives in that county owns a gun. I believe that is the safest way. I don't care where I go. Unless I'm on a plane and I can't, that's the only time I'm not going to be carrying. Otherwise, you'll never know, but I will be.
All right, so here's my question. We talked about economic collapse. We talked about possible invasion. Let's hit one more here, and then we'll roll into the next segment. What would be the third concern of yours that could happen here in America that would put you in a position of defense? I'll just say it. What about a nuke?
Yeah.
What if they detonated a dirty bomb, say somewhere in the Midwest, or
that's a briefcase.
Yeah, God forbid that we actually had
Excuse me.
ballistic missiles aimed at America and somebody pushed the button. But let's just say hypothetically, a couple of them go off, one in the Midwest, maybe one or two on the East Coast. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's possible?
I definitely think at some point that will be a possibility. But
you don't feel like that's a possibility at this point right now, today?
At this point, anything is possible.
China is building their military up right now. They have the
They
biggest.
are.
They have the biggest navy in the world, and they are increasing production. And then Iran is real close to having a nuclear weapon. Like, what about the little rocket man over there in North Korea?
If
Like,
you would have
those
asked
aren't
me this
concerns
question,
of yours.
if you would have asked me this question 110 days ago, 100%, it would have been top 3 on my mind.
Okay.
But
Why 110 days ago?
110 days ago, we had the weakest president in history. There was no security for the United States. It was a fend for yourself. Even going to Democrat cities and walking with this shirt on or with a MAGA hat, you were fend for yourself. And in those states, you would have been in the wrong. In their mind.
Ostracized,
Correct.
crucified.
Today, I know and I can sleep comfortably knowing that if something happens, that one, our military has got our back 100%. If anything's going to be coming over that ocean, it will be taken down before it ever crosses over onto dirt and soil. I feel that way today. 110 days ago, I couldn't have told you that.
Okay.
But today I do feel more of an ease of confidence. It's still in the top. I would say it's still in the top 10.
Okay.
But I think that if anything is going to happen, I think it's going to be on the ground, and it's going to be in small cluster groups that you can get less than 10 people together. Like I said, a nuke can be the size of a briefcase or smaller. And it doesn't have to be massively destructive. It just has to have proper placement.
What about? Do you ever consider EMPs?
100%. Yeah.
Is
you can
that
make your own.
is that more of a concern than maybe a nuke?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Idaho is a massive power grid. Massive. So, but you also have like a major pipeline that runs right across for gas as well, just over here in Utah. So, I mean, there's other aspects that could be an issue. You know, I mean, if someone was smart and they wanted to really take out 4 or 5 states, you know, blow up Yellowstone, create that massive structure to go off, and it'll take off from there all the way to the ocean and everything in between.
I think somebody's trying to get your attention there in chat. That's only your child.
Oh, hello, Spawn. Oh, look, it says Spawn Child 214.
Yes,
That's my
it
Spawn.
does.
Hello, Spawn.
That would be yours.
This is true.
Well, okay. So there's some concerns as men that we have for our families, right? So we talked about economic collapse. We talked about invasion. Talked about a dirty bomb, EMPs. So let's talk about first, this next segment. Let's talk about defense, and then we'll go into being self-reliant, you know, food and all the other stuff. But let's talk about defense, and we got to be careful a little bit about what we talk about here, especially when we're talking about the A2, right? We don't want to get in too much detail, but something bad happens. You're at work, your phone starts ringing. I'm blowing you up. I'm saying, son of a bitch. The bank's just closed. We got an economic collapse. Or I call you and I say, holy shit, dude. Did you hear about them just blowing up the grid in Nebraska
Excuse me.
and New York and shit's going down and power's going out? Like, you know, some kind of disaster that we've been talking about happens and your phone goes off. How is your family prepared to defend itself? And again, let's not go into too much detail, but what kind of is your game plan?
All they need to do is hold down the fort until I get there.
And what's the plan?
The plan.
I know what the plan is.
So the plan is you have to fortify your windows and your doors.
So
from
your
inside.
so your plan first is immediately hold down the fort.
Bug in. Unless you have somewhere to fall back on that's not going through your inner cities, that is a property or a mutual grounds, your best bet is to fortify your house. Get your provisions you need, water, food, ammunition, whatever guns you feel are going to be readily available, not just because you like to shoot them or because they're badass, but something that in the future there's going to be plenty of ammo lying around in the event.
So you're saying bug in. How long are we bugging in?
Until the whole entire group is together.
Okay.
You get the group together.
And how big's our group? Because I mean, some people might just be their immediate family, like
Correct.
just husband, wife, and their 2 kids. Some people might involve father-in-laws and more family. Some groups might be the size of a couple of good buddies and their families. It might be as big as a neighborhood or okay, these are the guys I go hunting with every year, and there's 4 of them plus me. That's 5, so that's 5 families. I mean, it could be anywhere from 2 people all the way up to, say, 20. So
Correct.
You're waiting for everybody to get back into the bug in the position, and then where do we go from there?
My number one goal is to get everybody that is in my immediate family into my house. And at that point, we either load up a trailer, load up an RV, and we convoy to where we need to go at. There's strength in numbers. If you have fighting-age people, you want to make sure that it's an even keel for each vehicle that's going. You want to make sure that you're not going to put all the women and children in one car, not because they can't take care of themselves, but because as a man, if you don't feel like you're not there to help protect them, you're not a man. Sorry.
Okay.
Not sorry, actually.
We're bugging in, Joel, and we got to speed this up just a little bit. We're bugging in, but again, how long are we waiting? Are we going to wait a week for everybody to get to the bug in position before we head to, our bug out position? Because there's some comments in there that you have to have a bug out position, which we do. I mean, we got plans. But how long are we waiting? Are you waiting for me to get off at 5 o'clock?
You and I is within 5 hours.
Swing by the bar to have a beer with the buds, and then I'm going to come home to the bug in position. Or are we saying, hey, as soon as we get that alert, your wife knows what she needs to do. She's gathering up the kids. She's loading shit. You're rolling in. I'm grabbing my kid. I'm rolling in. We're throwing all of our bug out bags and our stuff in the trucks and the RVs and the motorhomes, and we're loaded up and we're rolling out. So from the time, let's say a nuke goes off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, our time, how long before we're rolling out to our bug out position?
Within 5 hours.
So by 8 p.m.
5 hours. 5 hours should be more than enough time to get what you need done, get what you need loaded, and hit the road.
Do you think? What do you think about traffic and stuff? Because we live in the valley, and we've gone over this scenario a couple of times. I mean, we're a couple of country boys, and we know all the back roads to get out of here, which I think is to our advantage, obviously. But man, I ain't shitting you, dude. 5 hours, a long time for me. That's eternity, man. We need to be rocking and fucking rolling, kicking the tires and lighting the fires, and asses in the seats, and we need to be rolling to our spot. So here's my question: how far away is an appropriate bug out position? Is it 30 minutes away? Of course, you already said, if we can see them, they can see us. So is it 30 minutes away? Is it an hour away? Is it 2 hours away? What is an appropriate, in your opinion, what is an appropriate distance, drive time, and what is too far?
I think that's kind of a loaded question because it's going to depend. Like, for example, if you're in Seattle, you got a long drive to get through a lot of inner city. If you live in Portland, same thing. Here in Idaho, there's nowhere that you have to worry about because there's no way I'm going through downtown Nampa or down through Caldwell.
Easy. You don't want to say too much, and then people start moving here because you're saying, "Oh, we don't have any problems." Like this is
we have problems.
This is the easy
we
place.
Just deal with them.
Like we can.
What I'm saying is, you don't want to go through inner cities, so it's going to depend on where you're at. If you have to drive around a place like Seattle or Portland or LA, you're going to be on the road a long time to get around there.
So a lot of experts in that situation, like people in San Francisco, LA, is stay put and bug in, because you're not getting out. Like, there's no way for you to get out. You're not going to get out on I-5. You're not going to get out
Not
on
at
the
all.
10. You're not going to get out on some of those
Excuse me.
some of those inner cities. It's just you're too big and you're too
Correct.
compromised. And so for us, yeah, this is a great place to live. This is a place where if you and I really needed to get somewhere real quick, I believe an hour home, throw some shit in the truck, and I'd say the window would be less than 3 hours, and we would have to go back roads out and around. But I would say by hour 6, we could be pretty much up in the hills somewhere around here.
Completely gone from existence, where nobody would know where we're at. 100%.
I'm packing up my dog and my husband, and we'll be at your door in 5 minutes.
So
shit.
again, I mean, excuse me. I'd like to give you all a really no bullshit assessment about how that's going to play out, but it's not going to be that way. You're going to have chaos in every city you're at.
You're gonna have
stay away from the inner
situations.
cities.
You're gonna have situations that you're gonna have to deal with. I mean, the highway could be blocked because everybody's in a jam, right? You might have people come into your house, because they know that you've been prepping certain things.
Yep.
There could be a variety of situations that you're going to have to address, and some of it might be pleasant, and some of it might be very unpleasant. And I think the key here, Joel, is the fact that you have a plan. I think for every family out there,
Everybody
you
should
should have a plan. You should have a backup where you have some extra food and water, batteries, ammunition, and a bug out bag. And I believe that every family should have a plan. Okay, we're gonna go hunker down with our neighbors over here because all our neighbors are of same mind, and we just don't plan on leaving. But we're all gonna gather
100%.
together. Or hey, my uncle's got some 5 acres, out of town that's 55 minutes away or 2 hours away, and we're going to go there. Like my parents live 2 hours away. I can go there. We got family on the south side of the lake. We got family just across the border in Oregon that live kind of high mountain desert that is very fortifiable. So we're bugging out. What's our defenses on the road, and what's our defenses once we get to our point?
Well, I have, 5 or 6 different.
Do we shoot first, ask questions later, or are we going to be kind to people? And that's a serious question, Joel, because you and I think differently on that.
For me, I'm not there to assist. Like if there's somebody with a flat tire, they're going to have to figure it out. Every second you're out of your vehicle, you're a target. And they're going to have people that set up decoys like that in order to stop you. If you're in an RV and it's just you and your family, that's like a grocery store in a situation like that. Mm-hmm. A mobile grocery store. So, and you may see one person on the side of the road, but there could be 15 to 20 of them on each side of the road that you can't see. Mm-hmm. So it's not show friends, it's show biz. You get to where you go. And if they're in the way, if they try to stop you, run them over. Take them out. Because again, you have one goal, and that's to protect you and your family.
Correct.
And if you're dead, you can't help your family.
Correct. And again, we think a little bit differently. I'm not as short fused when it comes to altercations. And Joel and I have had this conversation a couple times. I guess my thought is I don't want to do anything unnecessary that makes me regret anything. But when push comes to shove and that switch is flipped, I guarantee you Joel and I will be like-minded.
Yep.
But as long as I can maybe get around an altercation and keep moving down the road, I'm fine. But here's where I draw my line in that instance. You and I, we're in the motorhome. We got our families. We're cruising down the road. We run into that situation, and I'm able to talk us around it, and we're heading down the road, and all of a sudden they're following us, that's when my switch gets flipped. That's when I say, okay, Joel, here's the issue. We did it my way this time, and it doesn't look like it's working, so it's time to do it your way, and we're going to protect the family, and it's just how it has to be.
Absolutely. And Jeff B., just so you're aware, if you live in Compton, start having barbecues for your neighbors.
Jeff doesn't live in Compton. he lives in Ohio.
Because I guarantee you those boys in Compton have more guns than you do.
Jeff's the one that you see that comes on the show.
Right? If you live in shit neighborhoods with shit people,
might as
do
well,
your best.
Might as well be prepared for a shit result.
Get in where you fit in, because at least that way they can help you.
I would love to see Jeff actually fit in Compton.
But
okay, so we get to point B, and we're setting up camp. What's defenses look like there?
if you can, you want one way in, one way out.
There you go.
You want to be on a high point where you can see everything
We've
coming
looked
around
at property, and one of the first questions when we're searching for property that Joel asks, he goes, "What's the access like? Is it one way in, one way out?" Because Joel is very adamant about only having one way in, one way out. To me, that can be good because it can be controlled, and that's what Joel wants. He wants to control access. But in my mind, and we've talked about this a couple times, what if we have to get away? Like, what if
we
what
can
if we
create
get
our own
compromised?
backways?
Correct.
And that's where our ingenuity and our
But for the
know-how
most part,
comes
we
in.
want one way in, one way out access. That's it. We want to put a gate at the bottom of the hill. So what about sentries?
You definitely want lookouts.
Armed?
Armed? I don't think you need like 1,000-yard shooter up there. If you want a small sidearm, that's fine. If you're there and let's say it's at night, you're gonna want quiet. You're gonna want quiet. Yes, you're gonna want cameras. You're going to want everything for an element of surprise. You want to be able to see them without them seeing you. And even if you're 800 yards away at night, you're still going to see a muzzle flash. So quiet is better. It's better to be able to observe and go back and report than find out there's a firefight and then we're all running into firefight.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do it quietly, it's always best. Yes, sentries. Yes, cameras. Whatever.
What
you
about
can set up.
drones? What about drones?
I like drones. I really
okay,
do.
but here's the problem with the drone. It's kind of like a gunshot. I mean, they're gonna watch it. They're gonna see the drone if they're on the ground. They're gonna watch where that drone goes back. In my opinion, I'm kind of against drones because I feel like it's follow the breadcrumbs back to location if they're smart, right? I like sentries. I like cameras, game cams. But drones to me is a little overkill and could lead people back to you. That's my opinion.
You can always have a destination point on a drone to go 3 or 4 miles the opposite direction,
And then go pick it up.
or just leave it.
That's a lot of money.
You know what though?
That's a lot of money.
Drones are a dime a dozen now. I mean, like I said, if anything happens and shit hits the fan, anything and everything you need will be readily accessible.
Okay.
You're not going to have to worry about currency. And if you do, you're going to be looking at gems. You're going to be looking at coins. You're going to be looking at raw materials.
Even toy drones will work.
Yeah. So I'm not too concerned if we lose a drone. If it's 5 miles away.
Okay, I'll compromise.
You got people on foot.
I'll compromise with you, Joel. We got drones. If we're in a situation where we have to have eyes in the sky and that thing is going to go 3 miles away and crash, and we get the information we're looking for, I'm 2 thumbs up for drones. Who's flying, you or me? I don't know how to fly them damn things.
My 13-year-old
Yes,
actually
she
does
can.
really well.
Yes,
Chloe
she
does
can.
was.
Yes, she can. She
Chloe's
can.
a little brainchild,
Yes, she
so.
can.
But the way I look at it is, if we take that drone and drop it 3 or 4 miles away, now we have the upper hand. We already know the grounds. We know what we've done. We know the trails. We know if we set up a play, we could be around them before they get to that drone. And if it's a threat, we take them out.
Okay, so let's hit the next segment here. So we've talked about the what ifs. We've talked about the bug in, the bug out. We've talked about defenses and what does the road look like. Let's talk about self-sufficiency. Your family growing plants right there in the house. I'm getting ready to plant our garden here. We're just going to grow a few things. It's not going to be anything super crazy like I did with my parents. But we're going to have a few things here in our little home. Now, we've talked about all kinds of things. You and I have had, so just so you guys know, a lot of times, not every Sunday, but Joel and I try to go have breakfast. We had breakfast this morning, but every Sunday we try to go have breakfast. We talk about a lot of the shit during breakfast, and I absolutely love it. We've talked about some of our ideas if we had our own property about, how we would set things up. So let's talk to the audience tonight. I know a lot of them are preppers or prepper minded, and they've watched a lot of prepping things. I mean, our audience is very in tune with a lot of this stuff, but there might be a viewer or listener out there tonight. Maybe they've just caught us for the first time. And welcome. Thanks for joining us there on YouTube, X, and Rumble. Do us a huge favor by hitting that like button tonight. Subscribing to the channel if you haven't subscribed, but more importantly, share us out. What does self-sufficiency look like to you? What have some of the things that you and I have talked about and our families talked about? I know I've had conversations with your wife, and she has her own ideas, and that's the cool thing about our small little community is each one of us, and I think this is very key and very important to anybody who's going to be a prepper, wants to be a prepper, or wants to be part of a community. If you're not just in it for yourself, but you want a community, you got to figure out what people bring to the table. I won't say where you work, Joel, but let's just say Joel is in a position where he can supply people tires, and that's his job. And so he's got a lot of clients. So there's certain things that he brings to the table, and it's funny when we're talking about prepping or we're talking about something like this happening, and he's like, okay, well, if we had a skid steer, we'd need these tires, and he's talking about the tires that we'd need to have on the equipment that we would have. He's talked about preparing for that and having some of that stuff already purchased and ready for us so that we wouldn't have to scavenge for it. But that's the cool thing about Joel is if we were in a position to have to scavenge for stuff like that, he knows his shit, and he's very well connected. We've got a lot of people that we know. I bring to the table some ingenuity. Of course, I'm an electrician. I have some things and some skill sets that help our little community. Your kids are very well into robotics and some other things, and they're like little engineers too, so they like to engineer shit. Your wife reads a lot of stuff. She does a lot of home baking, a lot of different things that you guys grow. So I think our little community, everybody's like bringing something to the table. Plus we got kids involved, and they're learning things. So again, my question is, what does self-sufficient mean to you? What does it look like in our little group?
I've taught my youngest two girls a lot of survival stuff as far as, like Chloe, for example, today we were having a conversation when we all got back from the store, and I was planning on bringing one of my go bags here, and instead Chloe and I started talking about like a suture kit for sewing up stuff. Like, let's say you get an injury or a wound and you need to sew it up. So I pulled that out, and she's got that. I'll show her certain things. You can do it on chicken. You can do it on anything that has skin. So she wants to learn how to sew somebody up if something happens. Skills that can help you even survive one night. Can you make a fire? Do you know how to purify water? Can you prep your own food? Do you know how to skin? Do you know how to
field dress?
Yeah.
So let's say you're a city slicker and you go out there and you happen to
this won't be available.
Yeah, you happen to stumble upon a deer, poor doe sitting there grazing in the evening, and you're hungry, and you have a weapon, and you fire
Shit,
it.
even if you got a grazing cow, hit it on the head with a rock. And
well,
there you go.
how would you? I mean, if you don't know how to field dress, that's a pretty important skill, because you could waste the meat. Like you could get sick, you could die. Like there's certain things that you have to know in processing an animal. So that's a skill set, right, Joel?
100%. Anything that you can do that could keep you alive 24 hours is a skill set.
M Cash asks a question: do you think Trump prepared for all these scenarios during 2020 to 2024?
I assume that his people did. Given his stature, I'm not sure he is one that has to figure that out on his own, if that makes sense. If you're worth billions, millions, whatever may be the case, he has his own plane. He has his own helicopter. He has his own security. There's a lot of things with that yes, I believe he had systems in play from 2020 to 2024 to protect him and his family. Whether they're his ideas or the people that he hires, yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, let's roll back to what does self-sufficiency look like to you? Again, so your youngest is learning how to suture. That's a pretty important skill. We talked about, do you know how to build a fire? Do you know how to purify water? Do you know how to field dress?
Do you know how to make a shelter?
Do you know how to make a shelter? Because the elements are unforgiving. And it could be summertime here in the valley. It could be triple digits here in the valley. You just go 2 hours north here in the mountains, and in the evening times it can get down around 50 degrees. That's summertime. So you're talking fall, winter.
Right.
You're talking it's below freezing. Your body temperature. Are you prepared with clothing? Can you build a fire? Can you build a shelter? Those three things right there, if you don't have one of those three things, could very well damn near kill you. Correct. Or kill you.
It's even as much as, certain things during the day, a magnifying glass is good during the day, but what's it going to do for you at night? Mm-hmm. Nothing. A striker is good. A lighter will only work if it's not wet and if it actually strikes. Zippo, what if you run out of fluid? Mm-hmm. You have to find a way, either have a knife with a striker. You can buy kits, like a full bug out kit for $40 online. Or you can just go to Walmart and check out their camping section, and you can build your own massive bug out bag for about $110. It's a small price to pay for you to be able to open up that bag on a road trip and protect your family.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so one thing that I chuckle about whenever I go with Joel anywhere, it does not matter. I mean, with the exception of maybe, hey, let's run down to Walmart. Every place we go, he throws his freaking bug out bag in. Usually I'm driving because I got the truck, but now he's got a cool truck, so maybe we'll be taking his.
Well, my wife lets me drive it.
Yeah, when your wife allows you to. But so he throws the bug out bag in there. There are times where we take the AR-15. We're both always packing. It don't matter. We always have our handguns, no matter what, no matter where we go. But you just never know. What you might run into, or maybe we're out exploring and then that's when this shit hits the fan and we're away from our families and we want to make sure that we get back. And I'm gonna talk about a concern of yours and mine about your wife here in a minute, because of her job, and I think that's important for us to cover tonight.
Yes.
But the bug out bags are definitely, I think, worth having on the shelf and worth having.
In any vehicle.
Yeah, any vehicle.
Quick scenario. I usually go to work when in the wintertime, I leave when it's dark. I come home when it's dark. At one intersection, it's a 4-way stop, and on the opposite side of me is railroad tracks, and it's probably about a 10-foot drop from top to bottom. I'm at the stop sign here, there's a vehicle here, and there's a vehicle here, and this guy goes in front of me, headed this way, and out of nowhere, a car flies over that 12-foot, 10-foot ramp system where the train tracks are at and slams into this van as I'm going past him. flips the van on its side, pitch black. So in my car, I always carry flares. I always carry high vis, flashlights, gloves. It was 15 degrees. Luckily, scenario happened where there was a prison guard. She's in her high vis. There's another guy that works construction. He's in high vis. I put those out, and it was foggy on top of that. So it was still a shit show because local cops do not communicate very well. But the flares were able to keep everybody else from causing more of a wreck. If you're prepared, you can basically be proactive in any situation. If you choose to be a part of it, you have to choose to do that. If you don't want to be a part of it, drive by like everybody else and let fate figure it out. Mm-hmm. So, but if you are prepared, you can help. My wife and I have pulled over where we've had to drag people out of cars. One was an officer, and he didn't make it. He didn't make it very far before he collapsed. He's fine now, but he got hit going sideswiped at 55 miles an hour. So, again, you can choose to stop and be proactive in a situation and help, possibly save somebody's life, or drive by and out of sight and out of mind, go to bed and wake up the next morning like it never happened.
So the bug out bag can definitely be
every scenario.
Instrumental in emergency situation, but when we're bugging out, we're not stopping for that shit. We're gonna keep rolling. So, last question.
Trauma bags, yes.
Yeah, trauma bags. Quick clot. That's an important thing too for wounds. Tourniquet, yes, and they make some really neat tourniquets now that are super simple,
ratchet style,
easy for you to use. They're not like you can do a tourniquet with just your belt, shoestring, all kinds of different things if you don't have the tourniquet kit, but they make some very simple tourniquet kits now. But here's the last question before I switch gears on you. When we're building our community, when we're looking for people to be like-minded, what are we looking for? What skill sets do they absolutely have to be part of the group? And what are some very important skill sets that maybe people overlook that are something that they're just, they're out there and maybe a lot of people have them, but they just get overlooked?
Well, I don't want to offend anybody, really, kind of. But, you can have the nerdiest of nerdy, and they're going to have a skill set that can help you. I hate math. We're going to need math. We're going to need to know exactly what it takes to build engineers. We're going to need to know exactly what it's going to take to build a water filtration system, or hydro, or solar. Just because you don't know how to shoot or aren't strong enough to, throw hay or throw rocks or cut down trees doesn't mean you're not useful. Your brain is the best thing you have on your head. It's the best thing going for you. If you don't use your brain, you're never going to survive. You'll never survive without using your brain.
That's going to be the hardest challenge to me is going to be power, good water supply, and actually security. Those are my three concerns. Now, being an electrician, Joel and I've gone over all kinds of different scenarios that I've given him ideas that if we ever got property of how I'd like to power the said location. And water is always going to be a critical thing, being able to have clean, good water and plenty of it, and then security. And I think those things and things that I'm looking for in people joining the group is, are you a hard worker?
Yes.
Like I'm seriously not interested in having anybody part of my group that's a lazy son of a bitch, to be honest with you. If you can't work from sun up to sundown when it's required, I don't need you. You're baggage to me. I look for people who have some type of, not even necessarily a medical background, but your wife and your youngest daughter are constantly purchasing books off of Amazon. It's pretty easy. You can look this stuff up. They purchase books off of Amazon. They're educating themselves. But the coolest part is books to me are the future.
Oh,
like
100%.
if we have we're going to go back in time. So if we have an EMP, we get invaded, dirty nuke goes off, we lose power or anything like that,
That's gone.
it's all gone. Books are the future. So at least I know that your wife has got a pile of books that are going to be thrown in the RV or thrown in my truck or
Absolutely.
wherever, and we're taking all that shit with us so that even though we don't have medical backgrounds, she showed me a cool book the other day she bought where it talks nothing about nothing more than just medical things, like simple things like sutures and what if you dislocate your arm and this, that, and the other. And so books are knowledge. And
Nature has every ingredient
Yes.
to survive.
Yep.
Nature has it all. Get the books that tells you what you can find on the ground growing.
So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for people who's got a green thumb, who can grow things, vegetables, and raise things, work animals, and like I said, put in a hard day's work when it's necessary. And people can be trained to use firearms. You don't
Absolutely.
necessarily have to have that skill. I do have a gentleman in my group who does have military background, and that person right there is vital because they can teach us how to clear a room. They can teach us how to be a sentry, how to have a perimeter, and I think those things are also important. Not necessary, but important. My biggest thing is just hard work. I need people who can put in, who can roll up their sleeves, do what's asked of them, learn and be teachable. That's another thing. You don't have to be super smart, but just teachable. Like if we teach you how to operate a weapon, you can do that. If we teach you how to run a tractor to farm, you can do that. Like teachable, I think is a huge thing in my book.
Correct. And if it gets to that point where you have to bug out, you have to be on the ground somewhere 2, 3, 4, 5 hours away, you're going to have to make a decision at some point when new people show up. And eventually you're going to be found.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point you're going to have to make hard decisions. You can't just turn somebody away.
Okay, here's my question. Is it going to be a round table about hard decisions, or do we pick a leader who's just going to sometimes be a dictator, honestly, and say, hey, this is how it's got to be? What's your thoughts on that? Because me personally, the weight of having to make every decision for the colony, that's heavy. But if I at least had a partner...
You need, I would say...
If I had a partner, maybe not necessarily a round table, because sometimes too many heads can be or so many heads can be too many, but maybe just a couple of guys bouncing. Hey,
you're going to need at least 5 guys that are on the same page. They can make a dirty decision based on the good of the community. Because if somebody shows up there and they're not on the same mindset, you can't let them leave. You can't. If they can't join you, they can't leave you.
That's a hard
decision. It's something you're going to have to eventually make. If they can't join you and be on the same page, they can't leave. But if there's at the end of days times where potentially they come back with more people than we have, you can't let them leave.
Rick Grimes, that was such an amazing show, The Walking Dead, and Rick Grimes, he was the guy that made the hard calls, and unfortunately, that was hard on him, and I wouldn't want that to all be on my shoulders. All right. We're gonna shift gears. We're gonna wrap this up. Now, if you're watching tonight,
sorry guys.
Yeah, he's.
I still got a cough.
He's
I
got
feel
a cough
fine.
from his allergies.
I'm being a pussy. Sorry, I got a cough.
This I want everybody to stay with us, because this is probably one of the hardest things that we're going to talk about tonight when it comes to you're an alpha male, you're a leader, everyone's counting on you, but the worst thing possible is happening. Your wife, I won't say what she does, but your wife travels quite often for her job. I think it's really cool that she does that. You and I have had conversations, and she's been involved in one or two of them where we've talked about a scenario where she's in Arizona and shit hits the fan, and now either you have to go on a rescue mission or you and I have to go on a rescue mission or whoever. And that's fucked up, dude.
It is. There's not a lot of things on this earth that I'm afraid of.
That is something I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of that for you. I'm afraid of that for my own family.
Because if that happens, I got to leave my kids. Now, granted, my oldest, who's on here, my spawn child, and her husband are like-minded.
But that's a scenario.
But it's a scenario that I have to make of leaving my two youngest behind.
To do what?
Go save
to do
her.
What? To do what? To save her.
To save her.
Jesus,
there is
Joel.
one chance that I can
Arizona is 7 states away. So
Yep.
you're telling me that you're going to hop in your what? Your Subaru, grab your bug out bag.
Well, hold on. Let me explain something real quick. Subarus, as liberal as they are and as fucking gay as they are.
I love them. I love Subarus.
What is every inner city if you had to travel through? What do you see?
Subarus.
They don't know what there's coming at them if that's me. So I can pretty much probably go through any inner city with a Subaru just based on it being a Subaru.
But here's the problem. Arizona is 7 states away, dude.
I know.
7 states. There are many things that you got to plan.
You know what I'm going to have to rely on?
Fuel. You got to have fuel. You can't just drive there and back in one tank. You got to be able to survive yourself. You got to be able to navigate. You got to be able to take on situations and people. Like, that is, in my mind, that is a fucking stretch.
It is.
That some people would say too far.
Now, when and if that were to happen, I do know pilots. If I had to save her, I would go that route with any means necessary for a pilot to take a plane. What I would have to rely on is Heather to quick thinking know what she needed to do. One, find a vehicle that is super reliable on gas. Get into that and drive as far away as possible.
Okay.
And
here's the question. Here's the
that.
question in everybody's mind: how the fuck are you going to find her? And what about communication?
Well, typically, even if a nuke hits, it would have to be a full scale to take out all communications.
Let's say an EMP. Let's say all communication was gone in America except for radios, ham radios.
Hand radios are good.
I'm giving you. I know this is hard for you to think through, but I'm giving you this scenario because that's what everyone's thinking. If there's no option,
then I have to let her do her thing. With whatever that means. If I can't find her, I can't find her.
That's scary as hell, dude.
It is.
You just turned my stomach with that comment.
But what else am I going to do?
Well, you got to take care of your kids.
If I can't be here for my kids.
And no disrespect to Heather. I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to make you make a choice between your kids and her, but this is something that people may have to experience. And how are you going to deal with this?
Her and I have already had this conversation.
You are always prepared, dude. You are the most prepared guy I know. When we finally met and we started talking about all this shit, this is the guy I want in my corner. You know, this is the guy that I know is like me. If I tell Joel I need something, he makes shit happen. If Joel tells me that we need something, I'm going to make shit happen. And that is going to be the hardest thing that any family member will have to do, whether it is your parents. Like, my parents are 2 miles away, but they're in a very safe location. My brother, my youngest brother, is in a position where I would say is, I mean, I wouldn't be able to go get him, but my brother's super smart. He'll figure out how to come home. But this is hard when you're talking about, say you got a kid in college, you know, in San Francisco.
Even worse.
You know, your daughter is in San Francisco and you want to get her home. But, you know, I think I know Heather well enough what she would say to you if she couldn't make it home. But fuck, dude, I feel like we're going to Gallon Field and grabbing some kind of armored vehicle, and we're going to put a plow on the front of that son of a bitch, and we're going to be heading to get Heather. I don't want to leave her behind.
Heather and I have had the hard conversations. It's easy it's easy for me to
You
have
need
the
to go
hard
see a damn doctor, dude. You need to go see a doctor for that cough.
It's easy for me to have the hard conversations with Heather and the younger two girls and my oldest because, for one, my job puts me in danger every day. And they all know this. They all know at any point something could happen and I'm not coming home. So the hard conversations have already been had. If there's no opportunity for me to get to her, then we already know what we're going to have to do. And then I just got to figure out how to live the rest of my life with that. Mm-hmm. But still be able to push forward for my kids and whatever group we choose to have with us.
Fuck, dude.
Because at that point, you have to make a decision for what's better for the greater good. Whether you like it or not, but that's a conversation you have to have with the people that you love. Because if you don't, you won't know what to do. And you'll put yourself at risk, you'll put your family at risk, you'll put the people around you at risk.
I mean, as an alpha, dude, that's our job, is to protect our family. But as an alpha, that's what we want to do. We want to go and extract the people that we love to get them to a place of safety. And I'm right there with you, dude. If you said, "Hey, I need you. We got to go get her." I mean, of course we're gonna lay out all the risks.
Right.
We're gonna analyze the situation and say, is this gonna be the best move? Are you gonna lose two alphas? That's the other thing. What about our kids and what about the rest of the community if the two guys that drive the whole fucking thing end up not coming back? You know? And that's something that you really got to think about.
You've already
in this
seen what
situation.
weak leadership's done in the last 4 years. So if you don't have strength or strength in numbers, then it'll implode. You don't have to worry about the people around you outside of the fence. You got to worry about the people inside the fence, because those motherfuckers will take you out first.
All right, here's my last question as we wrap this up. Is there such a thing as having too many alphas in one pack? And how do we, as alpha males and leaders and guys who love that pressure on our shoulders to make the calls, to make shit happen, if you can't work with another alpha, how do you deal with the situation? I know your answer. You're done. Like, fuck it, can't do this. But how do you try to work with other alpha males in our pack? Because honestly, dude, we're not looking for betas.
No,
we don't look for betas. So all the people in our group, we kind of tend to want to be alpha males.
Yes.
Right.
So the best way you can do that is give them the rein. Because a big dog can't run with the big dogs if they pee like a puppy. Give them the reins.
We need a t-shirt like that.
Give them the reins.
We need a t-shirt like that.
Give them the fucking reins, and you'll see how shrinking their balls get.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to be an alpha, put them in that situation. If they can't handle it, they let them learn themselves. Mm-hmm. Let them learn themselves. Humbleness comes within. If they can't humble themselves by looking at it and being like, fuck, I'm in over my head, you don't need to be told it if you realize it yourself.
And if you're a true alpha and you know you're in over your head and that's just not the position for you, you're in my opinion, you're gonna graciously back down and just say, you know what, this doesn't fit me. I mean, I'm gonna have to hand it back to you or hand it back to the group or whatever.
Absolutely.
Because if you're truly there for all the right reasons, in my opinion, you will want what's best for the group, and you're gonna say, okay, listen, this isn't for me. I'm gonna go back to farming, or I'm gonna go back to making sure this power is on all the time here or whatnot. And that's just another hard choice. There's lots of hard choices that you're going to have to make.
And I don't necessarily want them to fail. Like somebody said, give them enough rope to hang themselves. That's not necessarily it. Just because they fail at being a leader doesn't mean they're not going to be a good asset in the group.
Correct.
So I don't want people to be
Oh shit, that's yours over there. That's your comment in the chat right there. I'll let you answer that one.
Let's see. And what if
That's
a female wants
question.
to be an alpha?
That's a great
I don't have
question.
a problem with that. Like I said, there's roles for everybody. You know, if you want to lead, again, take the reins.
You're okay. You're okay. Listen, I'm not trying to start a fight with anyone in chat or anyone listening or anyone in our household or with you, but you're telling me, Joel, that you are 100% okay with a female, and I think this is a great question. This is another hard decision, another great question tonight. Spawn, thank you for, you know, your DNA is in the chat tonight for sure. But you're telling me that you are okay with me and you taking orders from a woman, and I'm not saying your wife.
No,
I'm not saying
no,
any of our significant others. Here's a scenario.
Excuse me.
We just happen to find somebody who wants to join our group, and she's super freaking smart. Maybe she's an engineer. I don't know. Maybe she's ex-military. Maybe she's spent some time in Afghanistan, and maybe she was a freaking captain or something in the Army or the Marines or something, and so she knows how to operate. You're telling me that you'd be okay with taking orders from her? Come on, Joel.
Yes,
I want
100%.
straight truth, and I want honesty.
100%. And I'll tell you why. Because a woman's perspective far exceeds what a man's is. A man can look at something and be like, this is how we're going to do it. But how many times does that backfire where we get the job done, but sometimes there is a different way, a more methodical way of doing it, or a more elegant way to do it. Not everything has to be swords, guns, crushing bones. There are certain scenarios where I have been humbled by taking lead from a woman. It happens.
I'm going to disagree.
But if it was a life and death situation,
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
If we're in battle, I can't say I've never been in that situation. So honestly, I can't say
I
that.
know some ruthless women,
But
that even in battle, they wouldn't hesitate.
But if we're looking at a scenario of on the compound, no other threats, and somebody has a better idea, whether it's a woman, man, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that women can't have a place at the table or have great ideas. Hell, I've been humbled myself by ideas that were better than mine, came from a female. But here's why I disagree. Are there women out there that can think logically? Yes. But I feel that God has created, and I'm not trying to bring religion into this. I just believe that most men, at least alphas, were created to think logically. And I think in a lot of these scenarios that we're talking about, you have to have logical thinking. You cannot have emotional thinking. I just hit you with a very emotional question about your wife. If she is out of reach, how are you going to deal with that shit? And you're thinking logically. Sorry, we've already had that hard conversation. Might be something where I have to stay home and take care of the kids. Now, a woman, if she's the leader, and I'm not saying all women, but generally, there probably would be an emotional. Okay, here's the fucking question. Let's flip the role, and you're out of town fishing with your buddies in Florida for marlin, and Heather's at home, and this shit happens. Is she going to emotionally want to come get you, even if you're out of reach?
Not one bit.
Not one bit?
Not one bit.
Well,
but that's her and I.
But that's because you told her not to.
Exactly.
You told her not to. You logically said, sorry, babe, I know you love me. I'll get to you if I can.
Right. I gotta respond to my spawn real quick here. Where she says that, yeah, we both know that you're controlling. Yeah, but the problem is, daughter, and I'm going to be as blunt as possible, you could either spend your life waiting to talk or you can wait your turn. If you don't wait your turn, then you're just wanting to blab off. You have to listen in order to hear. Don't ever forget that.
I'm just reading some of the comments over there too. So trying to keep up on chat, but I don't know, Joel. It's I guess a lot of it is you don't know until you're in those shoes. So we can speculate all we want, but I think the bottom line is you won't know until you actually have to make those choices.
Speculating, I would say that if we got onto a compound, we have everybody there. I think the conservative number is 30 days. We'll know within 30 days. You're going to have high alert for 30 days because you're going to want to know who's behind us. Did anybody follow us? Is there somebody on the other side of the ridge? We're going to have to go out and scout for miles. You know, we may be gone overnight. You never know. You're going to want to find out all of your surroundings. You're going to want to be able to make that path to get away back to the property somehow if you need to.
Producers saying prisons will become the new castles, I think is what they're trying to say. And that was exactly what happened in The Walking Dead.
Yep.
Remember, they ended up taking over a prison, and I don't disagree with that comment from producer there. Who knows what's going to fucking happen? And
right.
I think most importantly is we just have to be prepared. So as we roll into final thought here, Joel, and I know this is your first time on with me, and I appreciate you being here tonight in studio. I always like to give my guests a final thought. So think about that for a minute as I say thank you to everybody watching tonight. We've had quite a few people in here and great conversation. Love the spawn. But thanks for joining us on YouTube, Rumble, and the X. Do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Share us out to all your friends and family. Would love to have them interacting in our live chat as well, which if you're on X right now watching us live, there is an interactive chat there, and you can make comments just like everyone else. So, Joel, as we wrap this up tonight, because I know that you got a yard to mow, and I got shit to do too. So what is your final thought tonight? What would you like to leave the listeners thinking about tonight, or just pretty much anything you want to do to wrap it up?
My final thought is very to the point and exact. If you live in an inner city and shit hits the fan, do not waste time. Get the fuck out of inner city. Your inner city is going to be taken over by crackheads and gangs within hours. Everybody will be dead. Get the fuck out of the inner cities. You will not make it in your house. You need to find out who lives within 5 miles, 10 miles, wherever. Get the hell. Don't wait. If you have people that are out there that are outside of the house working, have a plan in play. Have go bags ready. Have food prepped. Have water prepped. Have everything ready to go. You all can meet at the same place, but get out of the inner cities. You are dead if you stay. Gang members and crackheads will take over the inner city within hours. There's nothing that the police can do. There's nothing that, by that time, there's nothing the military can do. It's going to be completely out of the hands. So find a plan. Stick with the plan. Get your family on that plan. Get your friends on that plan. Have a plan. I don't care if it's a shitty plan. A plan is better than nothing. Mm-hmm. That's all I got to say about it.
All right. Well, here is my final thought. I was looking at chat there because there's some colors there that I didn't recognize, but it's just your spawn. It's okay. So here's my final thought. One is I would really consider having a bug out location. It could be a friend's house out in the country. It could be, who knows, your favorite camping spot. Just realize that a lot of people are going to have the same ideas. At least here in Idaho, everybody's going to the mountains. There's going to be 200,000 of us up there in the hills. Some way, somehow, people are all going to bug out there. And I am already, aware of that. So that's going to be something that you'll have to navigate. but have a bug out location. I believe that's very, very important. To have a bug out bag, also very critical, and to have your plan on how the hell are you going to get from A to B. And you might have to take the long way around to get to that. But the most important thing, I think, if you are incapable of making very hard decisions, then you're going to need to find an alpha. And maybe that alpha is a female, and she can make hard decisions. But you are definitely going to need somebody in your group, if it is not you, that can make some of the hardest choices and some of the hardest decisions that you're ever going to have to be part of, because it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be kind. It's not going to be something that you even want your kids to see or have to live through. But unfortunately, it is a possibility. That's why we had the conversation tonight. And so, Godspeed all of us and God's protection, because it's going to be something that it'll be unforgivable and unforgettable. So with that being said, Joel, thank you so much for joining me tonight. We're definitely going to have to do this again.
100%.
Would love to have Joel come back and join Wolfpack Sunday. Good thing I didn't say
I'll
Wednesday.
never sugarcoat anything. I'll never water it down. It'll be straight between the eyes, and you'll never have to wonder what's on my mind.
You never have to worry about what's on Joel's mind. He'll just tell you. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Again, we will be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Headline Hits, Monday through Thursday. Tomorrow, I'm also planning on doing our very first call-in show. Hopefully, we can get that all tuned up tomorrow and ready to go. We're real close. So be back tomorrow evening for the very first call-in show. We haven't done that for a long time, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I don't know. We'll see what the future holds.
We started with the howl. You get to end with one?
Oh, fuck yeah. Let's do it. You going to join me?
Let's do it.
All right. All right. That's Wolfpack Sunday. Thanks for
guys.
joining us.
Have a great night.
See you on the next one.
Many times I walked the road with no end in sight in my life. Countless times I've sacrificed and lost my way. I've been down this road before. I've struggled with the pain when it pours. No one knows how I feel when I have to start again, and there's no one there to save me. Do you know how it feels when your world is gonna end, when I don't have a friend to stand with me? I'm gonna make a comeback. I'm gonna claw my way back to the top. I'm gonna get it all back. My comeback is right there inside. Yeah, I'm gonna make a comeback and rise up this time. And look into my soul and see a graveyard, a crossroads filled with despair and defeat. Look into my eyes and see the haters call my name. Look into my soul and see redemption on its way. The demand is high to risk it all and put it all on the line. I'm gonna take my shot and never stop. I'm gonna swallow my pride and put it all on the line and rise up this time. I'm gonna make a comeback. I'm gonna claw my way back to the top. I'm gonna get it all back. My comeback is right there inside. Yeah, I'm gonna make a comeback. I'm gonna claw my way back to the top. I'm gonna get it all back. My comeback is right there inside. Yeah.
How do you think it
I'm
went?
gonna make a comeback. I'm gonna claw my way back to the top. I'm gonna get it all back. My comeback is right there inside. Yeah, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna make a comeback. I'm gonna claw my way back to the top. I'm gonna get it all back. My comeback is right there inside. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, people need to hear the stuff that they don't want to talk about. That's the problem. Everybody wants to live in a bubble. I can't have live. And a reminder that everything's set up in place. She'll be debt free if anything happens. You're going to live your life. You're going